Hey everybody, welcome to Money's No Object. I'm your host, Dylan Howell. This is episode number 167 of our YouTube channel and podcast, and I cannot be more excited to continue sharing with you guys personal finance topics that I think could be useful for you in your long-term financial journey. Today we are going to be talking about your debt and why your debt may not be as debilitating as you think it is. Maybe your spending habits are just out of control. And so we're going to talk about how maybe we can rein in some of those spending habits, how maybe we have money laying around that we don't think that we have, and how we can put that money to good use getting our debts paid off. Before we get started though, if you could go down below, hit the big red subscribe button, like this video, leave me any feedback in the comments down below, and I'll be sure to respond to anything you leave down there. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify podcasts, then be sure to subscribe and leave me a review on either one of those platforms. Follow me on social media at MNO with Dylan, and that's really good supplemental materials to all the things I'm putting out in these long form episodes on YouTube and the podcast every single day. And then if you need somebody to help you to walk through your financial life, to create a financial plan that is specific to you and your family's needs and keep you accountable to that plan over the long term, then I can do that. Just go to my website, www.mnowithdylan.com. Click on the Work with Dylan tab, and you can choose the financial coaching session type that would work best for you, and we can begin pushing towards your long-term financial goals together. So I want you to think for a moment, if you're somebody who currently has debt, as to how much debt do you currently have, and what got you into this place? What got you into the place where you are saddled with debt, little or a lot, right? And no matter how much it is, what got you into this place? Was it you went to school and you didn't have all the money to pay for school, and your parents didn't have the money, so you took out student loans? Is it you fell on hard times financially, and so you ran to a credit card, and you decided that you were just going to put all your expenses on a credit card until you could end up paying them, and then you never got around to paying them? Is that what happened? Do you have a car that maybe you can't afford, maybe you shouldn't be owning because it is too high a percentage of everything that you own, or the payment is too high, or whatever it may be? Or do you have any other type of situation that is just debilitating as far as your debt goes? What got you into this place? Well, in a lot of people's cases, right, even though some of those things are true, that there are circumstances that they decided to go into debt, but it wasn't the most radical situation where they're just extremely financially irresponsible. Because going into student loan debt, even though it's not a good idea, this is not a marker of somebody being extremely financially irresponsible. I went into student loan debt. I had student loans myself, and I don't see myself as somebody who is extremely financially irresponsible. Now, if I could go back, I wouldn't do it again, but sometimes it's ignorance, right? Sometimes it's just the not knowing. Sometimes people put stuff on credit cards because they have fallen on hard times, thinking that that is the best option, when obviously that's just not a really good idea. That's not something that should be going on. So sometimes I think it is just ignorance. Sometimes I think people go into debt because they just don't know any other way. They don't know a better way to attack whatever they are trying to attack. But I also think that a vast majority of people, and you have to honestly assess yourself here, I think a vast majority of people go into debt not because of ignorance necessarily, but because of the fact that they do not want to live below their means. They do not want to live on less than they make. They do not want to stop their bad spending habits. They do not want to cut certain portions of their budget in order to either avoid debt or to get out of debt altogether. And so I think that it is worth our time today to talk about what type of things we typically turn to when it comes to our overspending, how we overspend in certain areas of our budget consistently and don't try to change. We're not looking to change those specific areas, and we are not willing to change those specific areas to get out of our financial mess, out of the debts that we are currently in. And so we're going to kind of walk through our budget today and talk about some different places that people really overspend and they get comfortable doing so, and then say, oh, well, my debt is too much. I can't get out of debt. I can't pay my debts off. I can't, right? You get into that victim mentality of somebody has done something to you. And I think in a lot of cases, it's not somebody has done something to you. It's you have made a decision and you don't want to cut your life down so far to where you can get your mess cleaned up, because you know that that is going to cause some short-term pain. And my goodness, do we not like short-term pain? We don't enjoy having some price that must be paid to win. But as I've talked to you guys about many times before, anytime you want to get somewhere financially or otherwise, anytime you want to succeed in doing something, there is a price to pay. If you want to become good at something, there is a price to pay. If you want to become good at a sport, you have to practice that sport. If you want to become good at math, you have to practice doing mathematics. If you want to become good at managing money, you have to practice managing money. And so in all of these places and all of these different areas of life, we have to practice good money management habits. And in doing so, right, that means we have to pay a price. That means we have to do something outside of the ordinary in order to get us to where we want to get. And there are just places in our budget where we are not willing to give up what we currently have in order to get what we ultimately want. And that is financial freedom. That is to be out of debt. And that is to live a financially successful life over the long term. So let me just walk with you guys through a typical household budget, and we will talk about some of the areas in which we can fall into overspending, and some of these areas that will keep us from staying out of debt, or things that will keep us from paying off the debt that we currently have. And so here we go. Obviously, the first thing that needs to be in our budget, because we talk about financial balance and we talk about giving, saving, and spending in certain proportions, no matter where you are, right? The first thing that needs to be there is the giving portion of your budget. And rarely does the giving portion of your budget have any indication of whether or not you are paying off debt or not. Actually, it is more likely that somebody who gives generously and gives more is more willing to pay a price, is more willing to pay off their debts, and is more willing to get out of their sticky financial situation. So the giving portion, not such a big deal. And then you get into your bills, right? You get into some of your fixed expenses. So things like rent, rent can be an issue. Or your mortgage can be an issue, right? Obviously, I say rent because a lot of people out here who are in debt, you don't need to be taking on a mortgage until you are out of debt and you have an emergency fund set up. But regardless of if it's rent or a mortgage, right, that doesn't typically hold people back too far. But I will tell you this, some people can get into this place where they think that they need something bigger or nicer than they actually have, right? They buy a house that's too big with a payment that's too large a percentage of their income. They rent something that is bigger or nicer than they actually need. And in doing so, that being our largest expense month to month, in most cases, that is going to dry up cash flow that we could be using to pay off debt. And so you might want to reevaluate if where you are living is keeping you from getting out of debt. Now, I don't think that it's the best idea, because it is costly to do this, to sell a house or to move or whatever it may be, if there's just, a little bit of overspending in that particular area. But if it is truly holding you back from becoming the financial success that you can become, then I think that it should be something that is looked at. There are a lot of people who live in a house that is more expensive than what they need to own, and that's going to be even more prevalent over the coming years because the money in the market has been so cheap, right? Interest rates have been so low, and so many people have been going out and buying new homes at higher prices because, hey, I can make the same payment for a bigger house, for a more expensive house, because rates are lower, and that's just going to continue to squeeze individuals in their cash flow over time. So just be aware of that, and just pay attention to what you need versus what you want. If you want a big house, then work your way towards having a big house, but you do not need a big house. You do not need a ton of space, for a family of 4 or a family of 5 or whatever it may be. You may need to parse that down in order to get to where you want to get financially. But nonetheless, that's not a huge part of overspending when it comes to keeping us from getting out of debt or getting us into a place where we continue to go into debt over the long term. Then there's utilities, right? Now, our utilities are something that we must pay. We cannot mess around and not pay the electric bill or not pay the gas bill or the water bill or whatever it may be. So this is not something that is typically going to keep us from a financially free life. It's not going to keep us from getting out of debt. It's not going to keep us going back into debt time and time again. So I'm not going to worry too much about utilities. Then there is groceries, right? And this is somewhere where I want to camp out just a little bit. Food in general is a place where people overspend consistently. Even if the grocery part of your budget is not a place where you overspend, I bet the eating out part could definitely be that, right? I think if you really looked at how much money you spent on food every single month, you would be appalled. And I think that's part of the issue too, is that when people are going and trying to get out of debt or say that they're trying to get out of debt, they're not actively budgeting. They're not actively doing a budget and looking at what they're spending in certain areas. And I think you would be extremely surprised that this particular area of groceries or food, any type of food, right, is a place where you are going to spend a ton of money. So ways that you can help yourself out here, though, you can obviously plan your meals out. Know what you are going to cook throughout the week. Cook throughout the week, right? Don't just eat out, because eating out is so extremely costly. Continuously cook for yourself, for your family throughout the course of each week. Plan out your meals. If you do eat out throughout the week, already have those nights planned out. Where you're going to eat, or when you're going to eat, how much you're going to spend on those nights when you are going out to eat. Have these things planned out. And if you have these things planned out, it's going to be far less likely that you do overspend. But I would challenge you to pull out a bank statement, right? Pull out a credit card statement, wherever you're putting your monthly expenses, right? And go through the past few months and just go, anywhere that you spent money on food, how much did that cost? And add all that up and see how surprised you may be. Because this is an area of our budget that can be keeping us from being able to pay off our debts quicker, right? Because people are not willing to give up on certain lifestyle choices. And as much as we don't want to admit it, food for us, for Americans in most places, is a lifestyle choice, right? The fact that people are so willing to go eat out so often, right? Eating out is, I don't think it's a status symbol, but it's something that has to do with convenience, right? But we pay a premium for convenience. We pay more money because it is more convenient than cooking the exact same thing at home. I'm just saying, if you can go somewhere and order a chicken breast and vegetables and mashed potatoes or a baked potato, or what, you can cook that at home for a fraction of the price. And in doing so, you can save yourself money and allow you to have money to pay on your debts, or to not go deeper into debt over time. Because when we are overspending in any specific area of our budget, it makes it far more likely that we will go further into debt because the budget gets tighter, right? The tighter the budget is, the less margin we have, the less money we have left over at the end of every single month, the less likely we are to be in a strong financial position, and the more likely we are to go into debt later. And so this can be an area where we consistently overspend. And this is an area where a lot of people are not willing to budge. They're not willing to budge on their food because it's so ingrained in what you do. It's so ingrained in your week. It's so ingrained in people's minds that they're going to go to Starbucks every morning, or it's so ingrained in people's minds that, if everybody at work goes and eats out, I'm going to go eat out too, and we're just going to spend money here, and it's not going to matter. Well, look. Right? Actually look at the amount of money you're spending, and you will realize that it matters. Because the next time that you go, oh, I'm in all this student loan debt, or I'm in all this credit card debt, or I'm in all this, enter debt here, whatever type of debt it is, and I can't get out of it. Well, look at how many times a week you're eating out. Look at what you are eating. Look at how much money you are spending on food month after month, or week after week even. Look at what you're spending at the grocery store. Look at the types of things you're buying at the grocery store. Are you buying a lot of snacks, or are you buying things that you actually need to cook meals? It is going to make a difference. It is going to impact the amount of money that you spend, and it is going to impact what you actually do as far as paying off debt and eventually becoming debt-free in the future. Then I think there are a few areas of our budget, if we are just willing to do some negotiating, or if we are just willing to do some shopping, we could save ourselves a lot of money and put a lot of money towards our debts instead of just spending a ton of money in these places. So a few places that I think this could be the case. Internet and phones, right? We all are paying for Wi-Fi in some way, shape, or form. We're all paying for our phone bill in some way, shape, or form. And in doing so, we get really loyal, right? Even if you're not somebody who's like, oh, well, I'm not, super loyal to whatever company I am working with. I'm telling you, you are, and here's why. Because it is so difficult to get them off your back. It's so difficult to cancel a contract. It's so costly to cancel a contract, and it requires you actually talking to people. And guess what? People in 2021, and I may be calling you out here, don't like talking to people. They don't like picking up the phone and telling somebody, hey, I want to cancel this service. They do not like to do that. But you can get such a better price if you actually shopped around for internet and phone service, because a lot of internet and phone service, it may start out extremely cost effective, but get more expensive because let's say there's like a trial period, right? It's typically with internet, right? There's a year or two where they will give you a reduced rate that you can pay, or maybe even a certain TV package, whatever it may be. They'll give you a reduced rate, and then after that time period is up, that reduced rate goes away, and you end up paying a higher price than you were paying previously, and you're not willing to cancel the service or to ask for the price to be reduced. Sometimes if you just ask, or if you just threaten to leave, then you can get your price reduced, and it can help you out a lot in getting your budget a little looser to where you can pay off debt and you can stay out of debt moving forward. Okay, so internet and phones, and I kind of throw TV in with that, even though more and more people are streaming now than ever. You need to watch out, because some of these streaming services, they are setting a price early on, and then those prices are steadily increasing. But that's not such a huge part of your budget that it can make any extreme headway toward paying off debt or staying out of debt in the future. I just want you to be aware of your spending, right? I want you to be aware that you could be overspending, right? You could be overspending in a lot of different ways. Another place that we can shop, and that a lot of people fail to do so, again, because they get comfortable with who they are working with or whatever it may be, is insurance. Car insurance or homeowners insurance. If you renter's insurance, going and buying life insurance. You need to be shopping these insurances, because insurance is costly. And the fact that insurance is costly tells us that it can eat up a large portion of the income that we bring in. It can eat our budget away. And we don't want things to be eating our budget away. And so we need to be willing to shop these. We need to be willing to find a price that we are willing to pay and not come off of that price. We need to be able to look at our car insurance and compare it with other car insurance providers. It has never been easier to go online and get quotes for the exact same coverage and see if you can spend less money. I think there are certain things now that are just overrated. It's just overrated to have to go somewhere, or get in your car and drive to an agency. You can get a quote right online. You can make that work for you, and you can shop insurance in that way. And if you can shop these insurances and find extremely lower rates, then that can allow you to be able to pay off debt in a certain way and keep yourself out of debt over the long term. And so you can shop your insurances. Now, the big one, right? And this I've kind of saved for the end, but I want you guys to know that there are things, right, over the course of a normal budget that can keep you from your paying off debt, that can keep you from thinking that you can actually clean your financial mess up and get to a place of financial strength. But the thing that is keeping most people from paying off their debts, the thing that is keeping most people from getting in a good financial position, is that you buy miscellaneous crap that you do not need. You buy stuff that you do not need to buy. And it's not just within the course of your normal budget and your normal expenses. It is stuff that you absolutely do not need, right? People, for some reason, think that they need to buy new clothes all the time. They think that, every week or every month we need to go buy new clothes. We need to buy new shoes. And we need to buy these things with our income. I'm telling you, you do not. Right? And that may be why you've probably seen certain shirts on me multiple. I don't go out and buy a ton of clothes all of the time. It's a waste. It honestly is a waste. If you can find clothes that you like, that are durable, that you can use over the long term, that is what you should be buying. You shouldn't be buying new, especially new, nice, expensive things all of the time. Buy things that are going to be necessary for you to wear. We need clothes to wear. We don't need clothes to tear down our budget, right? And clothes can absolutely tear down our budget. What else in this way can tear down our budget? Well, ladies, I'm going to hit you with this, but TJ Maxx can tear down your budget, right? And not just the clothes at TJ Maxx. I know that's where people spend a lot of money, but all of the crud at TJ Maxx or at Home Goods or at Target, right? These different places can tear down your budget because you end up going in not thinking you need anything. You grab a cart and you start pushing the cart around, and all of a sudden the cart's full and you didn't come there to buy anything in particular, and you're spending $100 at Home Goods or at Target or whatever it may be. And this is not just for the ladies. I know that guys can spend money too. I'm just saying this is a specific example. And for all of us, I think Amazon makes it too easy, right? Amazon makes it too easy to buy new clothes. They make it too easy to buy knickknacks or things that we think that we want. They, at just a press of a button, you can buy just about anything you could think of online. And so the idea of online shopping can just eat us up. It needs to be harder. You need to make it harder on yourself to spend money on Amazon, however you can do that. And then guys, I'm going to call you out too, right? We don't need to be going out and buying new hunting equipment every year because the other stuff I have is kind of old. Or we don't need to go out and buy new fishing stuff every single year because all of that stuff's kind of old. Because you want the new and the nice, because it's no different than what your female counterparts are doing. It's no different than any other place that you can just spend. And because I know in those specific areas, hunting, fishing, you can spend a ton of money really quickly. And in the same way that people can spend money really quickly at Home Goods and Target and Amazon and all these different places. So we just need to be more cognizant of how we're spending our money. Because the bottom line of everything that I'm talking about is that as a country, we are deeply indebted. We have a ton of debt as a country. As individuals, we have a ton of debt. I'm not saying you specifically have debt because you may be debt-free like myself, and it is an amazing feeling. But on average, you likely have a fair amount of debt, whether it's student loans, credit cards, car loans, whatever it may be, right? And it's pushing you down. It is holding you down. It's holding you back from being financially successful. And so what you have to do is you have to look and go, am I contributing to the issue? Am I contributing to the problem? Am I keeping myself from financial freedom because I am consistently making bad decisions? And in a lot of cases, the answer is yes, right? A lot of people are keeping themselves out of financial freedom, out of financial success, because they are not willing to give something up. They're not willing to stop buying new clothes. They're not willing to, cancel the Amazon orders. They're not willing to not go to Target unless they absolutely need something that they can only find at Target, right? People are not willing to dissociate needs and wants. They want their wants to be needs, and it's just not the case, right? And we need to focus on our needs while we are in debt. We need to focus on our needs while we owe money to other people. While we are trying to get out of debt, we need to focus on the things that we need. And then the things that we want can come later. I am not saying that I don't want you to enjoy your income or enjoy your money, whatever amount of money that you make. I want you to enjoy it, absolutely. But enjoying it while you are deeply in debt is counterproductive, right? You're paying money towards interest on these debts, but you're also buying things that you don't need when you could be paying more on those debts to get those debts out of your life so that you will have more money later on, right? Again, it's all about paying a price today to win later on. And most people just are not willing to do that. And so we have to be sure that we are not contributing to our problem. Now, your problem may not be your overspending. You may cut your budget down to bare bones and think, well, I'm not overspending. How am I not making any headway with my debt? How am I consistently going back into debt all of the time? Well, maybe yours is an income issue, and that's an episode for a different day. And I've actually talked about these things before with our jobs and making money and side hustles and things like that. It may be an income issue for you. You may have an issue with the amount of money that you make where even if you are taking care of your needs, that's all you can take care of, and you don't have any type of margin to take care of your debts. But we need to find that margin. And in most cases, it's not the income side. In most cases, it is the outgo side. In most cases, it is the spending that we are doing that is keeping us from getting out of debt, that is keeping us from living a financially free life. And that's what I'm trying to address. That is the problem. And if you cannot address that problem, then you cannot be financially successful over the long term. You won't get out of debt. You won't stay out of debt. And if you are not building a good, strong financial foundation, if you are not building good, strong financial habits, again, not saying that enjoying your money is a bad thing. I'm just saying when you have a negative net worth, or you have all this debt and all these people that you owe money to, and yet you're willing to put wants above needs, or wants above paying these individuals back, then there is a disconnect. There is something wrong there, and it needs to be taken care of. You need to make changes in your life. You need to control your overspending. You need to realize that maybe you are not the victim that you think you are. Maybe the debt is not just holding you down as much as you think it is, right? $25,000 in debt seems like a ton when you're only able to put a couple $100s a month on it, right? But if you can create thousands of dollars of margin, or $1,000 of margin every single month, then it seems a lot more doable to pay that amount of debt off. It's all about the margin you can create every month to put towards those debts. And then obviously, if you can build strong financial habits, then you are less likely to go back into debt later on. And that's what we want. We want you to, be in a place where you don't go back into debt, where you have a hard time ever saying, hey, I'm going to, take out this car loan, or hey, I'm going to, accrue interest on this credit card, or hey, I'm going to go back to school and I'm going to take out student loans to do so. We don't want any of those things to occur, but it's much easier to say no to debt when you have built the good financial habits to keep you out of debt, and that have helped you to dig out of your bad debt situations previously. So I just implore you, look at your spending, pay attention to the money that you are spending, because maybe in the places where you are so, adamant that you have spent, the bare bones, I bet you haven't. I bet you haven't, negotiated your TV, internet, phone bill, right? I bet you haven't, looked at your car insurance again and shopped around with your car insurance. I bet you haven't, stopped using that Amazon credit card. I bet you haven't stopped going to Bass Pro Shop. I bet you haven't stopped going to Home Goods or Target. These things are really going to help you over time, and you need to be cognizant of them. Build a strong financial foundation, and you will not be sorry, because getting out of debt is one of the biggest things that you can do for yourself to build long-term financial success. So thanks for watching this video. If you could go down below, hit the big red subscribe button, like this video, leave me any feedback in the comments down below, and I'll be sure to respond to anything you leave down there. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify podcasts, then be sure to subscribe and leave me a review on either one of those platforms. Follow me on social media at MNO with Dylan, and that's really good supplemental materials to all the things I'm putting out in these long form episodes on YouTube and the podcast every single day. And then if you need somebody to help you keep accountable to a financial plan over the long term and create a financial plan that is specific to you and your family's needs, then I can do that. Just go to my website, www.MNOwithDylan.com. Click on the Work with Dylan tab, and you can choose the financial coaching session type that would work best for you, and we can begin pushing towards your long-term financial goals together. So tune in tomorrow as we talk about budget killers, and I'm going to build a little bit off of some of the things that I talked about in today's episode. So thanks for tuning in to this episode of Money's No Object. I'm your host, Dylan Howell. God bless.